Now it is.
Yep.
It's going? All right. How are you doing, Ellie?
Good. Murderous. Homicidal.
Murderous. What you want to talk about? What's on your mind?
No. You're doing this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's chill. Well, I can talk about the Sitka vacation I just went on that you know a little bit about.
Yeah. The one where you were an idiot and said the most man-like things that you could ever say in your whole life.
You know, I just gotta say, we little context. I went to Sitka to meet a beautiful lady, and we had a good time. And
Yeah.
then right at the end, I did say some stupid manly shit, and
He sure did.
then I got in trouble, and we had a 2-day fight, I'd say. But now it's better, and now we're on a good page, I'd say. We both have an understanding.
That you're a fucking
Which
idiot?
There's no need for that.
Is there really no need? I think that's just your opinion.
I think we're friends here. And
Speak for yourself.
mean. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Jordan right now is looking up a domestic abuse FAQ page. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, here's a good topic. What is domestic violence? Should I read that? No?
You should talk about it.
This would be really fun to do if you were stoned.
A lot of people.
I wish I had some weed to offer. Honestly, okay, you know what? This is actually something I've thought about before. I thought about what if I had like just a bunch of stuff that I don't personally use, but that I could offer to people, you know?
Like what?
Well, for example, weed.
Meth?
No, not meth.
Heroin?
No, nothing heavy.
Cocaine?
I do not endorse that.
You also don't want to talk to
Fentanyl?
I would have mushrooms.
Opiates?
I'd have mushrooms and weed available.
Morphine?
Is morphine legal?
From a doctor, yes.
I have a few doctor connections,
Oh.
but nothing.
Wow.
I don't think they'd give me morphine. But I thought about this. I'm like, what if I had like some good whiskey, to offer to offer guests, or
You're such a man.
or wine.
Wine's better.
If I did drink, which I wouldn't because that's just not who I am. But if I did drink, it would definitely be like a good whiskey bourbon. Nothing
disgusting.
nice, dark, heavy, not watered down.
I drank too much whiskey in my youth, so now it's just fucking ruined for me.
Yeah. What's your drink of choice?
Vodka.
Vodka. Vodka's a pretty common one.
Well, yeah.
People like it.
I used to drink Everclear and God only knows what else. What are you doing?
Do you like Smirnoff?
Fuck no. I don't like alcohol.
Oh.
I drink purely to get drunk. That's it.
Oh.
I'm not a social drinker, if you will. I don't agree. What everyone always says, why can't you just have one drink? Just have a drink, Enjoy the drink because it tastes like ass.
Because it's kind of like, what is it? It's kind of like sex, where it's like you, hugging leads to kissing, and kissing leads to baby making.
I just want to lay naked.
Yeah.
I just want to feel like what it would feel if we fell asleep with my dick inside you.
Exactly. Or as the Mormons call soaking.
Oh, disgusting.
But it's like drinking. It's all like, yeah, just have one drink. Just have a few shots. Just have XYZ. Just have this heavy, thick bourbon. Just have these Jello shots that don't even taste like alcohol at all.
Well, I'm also on antidepressants, so
Yeah.
one drink for me is like 2 for another person. The more you go, the better it gets, you know?
The more you go, the better it gets.
See?
What a great quote.
Thank you. Okay, on to why I'm here. Why'd you bring me here? What would you like to talk to me about today?
The other night when the three of us were talking, the three being you, me, and Jordan, I don't know if that's correct grammar or not, but we were kind of talking about DV, and it sparked a pretty interesting conversation between us three. And so I felt, and I have this podcast going, and also Sierra thought it'd be a good idea for me to bring you on. So I listened to her and my good instincts. So
what would you like to know?
Well, how has your life been like?
After?
Just all of it, like whatever you want to talk about, like whatever you want to put out there into the world. what have been your experiences?
Not good.
Yeah, from the beginning. How did you how'd you get into it? Like it's a business, You saw an advertisement on Facebook.
Well,
Abusive asshole looking for girl.
it started when I was with my ex.
Mm-hmm.
He was also older, and he kind of came in, and that was my first for everything. I hadn't kissed a boy, I hadn't held hands with the boys, I hadn't hugged a boy, I hadn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
So when he came in with the knight in shining armor, this is, I'm here to save you. You didn't deserve any of the bad things that happened. Oh, let's run away together and be together forever. You're perfect. It was like, oh, fuck yeah. Absolutely.
So from what it sounds like, you came from a pretty rough household.
Yeah.
And that's what he was able to target.
Well, it came from, my mom. It was just me, my mom, and my sister for the most part of me growing up. And then I would visit my dad on visitation. And then on the visitation with my dad, he molested me and he was like a raging alcoholic. So he would get physically abusive when he would drink. And then it was a whole thing, child pornography, things like that were involved. And then with my mother and my sister was using from the time I was very young. So it was like growing up around somebody that wasn't a person. All she was passed out on the couch and trying to get her to stay in the house and hiding her needles and things like that. And then my mother being my fucking mother. And she got diagnosed. Well, I got diagnosed with Munchausen's by proxy because that was her thing.
What is that?
It's when a parent, by proxy, Munchausen's is when you make yourself sick or you believe that things are wrong with you when they really aren't. By proxy means that she was putting it on me. So she would make me believe that I was sick and that there were things wrong with me that there weren't. So she would put me on a lot of medications. I wasn't a person.
Is that similar to that girl?
Gypsy Rose?
Yes, Gypsy Rose.
No? It wasn't as severe as that. She did a lot of the mental aspect of it. Gypsy Rose, her mother made her physically ill. My mother made me physically ill by putting me on so many medications. Like, my mother was told multiple times she doesn't need to be on this. She doesn't need this as a form of help. And my mother was basically, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to find somebody else who will. And they won't do it as good as you will. So they kind of just rolled over for that for my better interest. And then, yeah, that's when Louis came into the picture and I met him on Tinder. And I had my Tinder account set to be older. But as we started talking, I informed him that I was much younger. And he said it was fine as long as no one found out.
So how old were you when you set up the Tinder?
14.
14.
Yeah. So you can't make a Tinder when you're
Yeah.
14 years
Yeah.
old.
Right.
And my plan was to always inform of the age. I shouldn't have been on Tinder to begin with.
Yeah.
And I will take responsibility for that because no 14-year-old should be allowed to just romp around on Tinder.
Yeah. Little note to the guys out there, like even if you meet the girl on Tinder or at a concert, you should still ask for ID.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if they're being shady about it. I mean, I
Yes.
genuinely was very upfront. You know, it was right off the bat of any connection that I wanted to make.
Yeah.
I am not how old I am on my bio. I am 14 years old. Is that okay? And there were people who were like, nope, not going to work. See you.
Yeah.
But he said he didn't care, and we went from there.
Yeah. I knew this guy who he went to a concert, and I mean, there's alcohol there, so it's 21 and older.
Yeah.
Met this girl. They were into each other, hooked up. She hooked up, like went to his place, all that. And then I think like a week later or something, got a notice like, hey, you're being charged for sexual assault of a minor. It's like, what? And
Yeah.
she was 16. So
Yeah,
like,
and there are so many cases of that. Like, I am not a victim shamer, and I'm not of the mentality of never believing the victim. I just know that there's normally other circumstances that go into it, no matter what the situation is. And there are a lot of men that get trapped in that situation, not realizing that that would even be possible, and their whole life is ruined. And normally that happens when, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. Oh, well, if you're not going to be in a relationship with me or don't want me, I'm going to turn you into the police. It's like the ultimate manipulation.
like, wait, I'm confused. Turn you into the police?
Yeah,
Or-
that's like the common reason that shit happens. Like, you're talking with a younger girl as a male.
Right.
You say, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't working out. And they say, if you aren't going to be with me, I'll turn you into the cops if you don't.
Oh, because the guy was talking
Yeah.
with the girl. Gotcha.
Yeah, and it will wreck a whole man's life, and I think that goes unnoticed really frequently. It's always assumed that that man is a pedophile. What was he fucking doing?
Yeah.
When there are more than there should be cases of it being the opposite, where they were kind of the ones taken advantage of and were being lied to about certain things, and they have to pay a price.
Yeah. I don't think, I mean, with that specific trap, like for guys out there, I don't think there's any shame in backing out.
No.
Like, it's like, okay, you were curious but you fucked up, but it's not too late to back out and not get physical.
Yeah. I mean, that would be, I think, the best idea is, despite what you are being threatened with, it is going to be better to show, hey, I didn't do this and I was trying to leave this situation, than to be like 2 years down the line and be like, oh, well, I didn't know that she was that young. Well, then why'd you stay with her for so long?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I was reading this article on what happened to the guys who showed up on that Chris Hansen show to Catch a Predator. Those guys, like, they did not receive harsh sentences, like, almost at all. I think like the most I saw them get were like 1 or 2 years in prison,
Yeah.
but most of them were slapped with like probation, like at most. Like it was so it yeah, I mean, I don't know, but again, that is the Chris that's To Catch a Predator. That's like what, mid 2000s, late 2000s.
Yeah.
So I'm sure things have changed
Well,
by,
they're
or
nuts now.
hopefully things have changed by then.
I mean, all the videos I've seen, which are a similar vibe, crack me up because it's like them beating the shit out of these pedophiles and then being like, okay, you're going to the cops now.
Yeah. I My opinion on that is I think those guys are bullies, and I think they saw channels like Dads Against Predators, which I really admire, because Dads Against Predators, they don't get violent, but they do have a serious conversation with the guys. But those guys, the ones who are smacking the shit out of them, it was entertaining the first few times, but like I started seeing more and more and more of them, and I'm like, these guys are just bullies who want an excuse to hurt people, and I don't think that they're actually wanting
To help.
justice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
And
the
so
thing, is
maybe some of them do, but
in that field, and if that's what you're choosing to do, you have to be able to be in control of your emotions.
yes.
Because if you're not, you're just going to end up making the situation worse. I mean, beating up somebody is not going to help the victim.
Right.
You know, it's not going to make them feel any better, and it's probably just going to make it more complicated. You gotta have no emotions. Like if you see a dude talking about a 12-year-old, you have to be able to put that in the back of your mind and just continue forward. You cannot react emotionally to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even have no emotion. It's like you said, have control of your emotion.
Yeah.
And like, because really what you're doing is you're doing a pretty emotional line of
Oh, yeah.
work, because it's like, yeah,
Well, there's
those are men who are targeting
yeah.
innocent children.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think that there's something wrong with you if you don't have a reaction to that. Because if you have a decent head on your shoulders, that's going to bother anybody, especially when they're really young. Like, I understand how it doesn't affect people as much as they get older into like the 16, 17, the more mature age of it. And people will get outraged the lower the number goes. But I think it's equally important to also remember that, because I mean, even when you have the 15, 16, 17-year-olds, they're not mature enough to
yeah.
make that decision and to understand that fully. They don't have the knowledge to be able to make that decision. It's
Yeah.
like me. I thought I knew everything. It was like, this is fine.
No, there was a discussion I saw online where people were like, they're given like 30-year-olds crap for being with 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And someone brought up a good point where they're like, yeah, you know what? 18 is young, but the way our judicial system is ran, like, we have to draw a line somewhere that is called the age of consent.
Yeah.
And, like 18 is like, I don't know. I think it's a good age. It's like,
Well, I
I mean,
was.
I'm not that. That's not the area I like to dip in. I like. I mean, me personally, I'm 25. 20 is kind of my cutoff
Yeah.
age.
Well, I think
So
that any person that is significantly older than somebody that wants to be with an 18-year-old has something that they need to work out mentally. Because I
Yeah.
think if you are stable and you don't have anything that would impair your judgment mentally, I don't think anyone
yeah,
over a certain age is going to be like, oh, yeah, I want an 18-year-old.
yeah. You got to be able to connect
Yeah.
with your partner on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
And
not just say they're mature for their age.
take him on a movie date. Like, that's actually something Brenner and I were talking about the other day. Is he was saying, I think, like, if I was, like, let's say with a 23-year-old, but she was still like, I couldn't like connect with her intellectually, like she
Yeah.
was just like in a younger headspace. He's all like, I would still kind of like feel like a pedophile.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, because I know what's going on inside her head,
Oh,
but
there's
she doesn't understand what's going on in mine. And it's like, I feel like I'm taking advantage of her. you
yeah,
know?
and there's a lot of mental things that can be in somebody's mind that will make it that way. And it's, in my opinion, kind of the same ball game as if you were going after a 13-year-old. It's like, if they can't think and process like their age, I mean, they could be 30 and have a mental impairment that would make them appear and think in a younger headspace. And
Yeah.
that's just as bad. Just because the number is saying that they're of age, it doesn't make a difference if their behavior is saying that I am younger than this, I am presenting younger than this, I can't think thoughts beyond this certain age.
Yeah.
That's my hot take.
It's a great take.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like, it's great to implement that into our personal lives, but it's like, it's so weird when we have these values for ourselves, like almost unanimously.
Yeah.
Like people, like intellectuals that I talk with online actually kind of come to the same conclusion. So like unanimously, like we all kind of have these same values, but there's not really a way to implement them
Yeah.
into our judicial system. And it's like, it is just like kind of strange.
Yeah. Well, the
Like, yeah.
judicial system is crazy to begin with. I mean, with my court cases,
Yeah.
that whole system was nuts. I mean, I know that they mean well and they're overflowing with things, but I think there should be certain things in place for victims. Like, I should, even though he got out of jail, should not have been able to get back in contact with him.
Yeah.
And I know they can't monitor it all the time, but once they saw me with him in person, he should have been back in jail. Like, it shouldn't have just been like, oh, well, she's making her choice. You know, it should have been, she cannot make a sound decision on this, obviously, so she needs for her own safety. And I mean, it was the state of Alaska prosecuting him, so it wasn't me. So even
Right.
when I went to them and was like, I want all these charges dropped, they were like, that's nice, you know.
Yeah.
And they did eventually drop the charges, but it was a lot of haranguing. Oh, that was a different partner. The big domestic violence situation that I was in was after my first relationship, and he was actually my ex's boss. And so he was overseeing my ex, and he saw me when I was with my ex. And I mean, which is pretty crazy to begin with, because he was a grown man and I was literally like 14, 15. So for him to see me and kind of think, oh, well, yeah, you know, and I don't think he liked to spin the tale of being like, oh, well, I saw you and I fell in love with you for your personality. But in my bones, I know that the only reason he got in contact with me was to put me into the situation I was in. Because you don't. I mean, I never had somebody to guide me and to tell me, like, hey, that should have been a red flag. You know, I didn't have a parental figure. So when he contacted me out of the blue and was like, hey, you have a place to stay, you got a job lined up, you know, you got all of this, you can come stay with me. The boys need a mom figure. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then got there and it wasn't, you know, I didn't see any red flags until I was there. And then shortly after is when I was put under the influence and drugged. And then I was taken to a secondary location. So I feel like if I would have had a better, I mean, anyone, it doesn't have to be a parental figure, but just somebody that had a better head on their shoulders that could have been like, you know, this is a little suspicious. You know, if it seems too good to be true, it normally is.
Yeah. And I've read like pedophiles primarily target like essentially broken homes.
Yeah.
They really like to go after homes without a father figure.
Yeah.
But that's like the thing is you had like, I mean, you had somewhat of a father figure, and from what it sounds like, it wasn't a great one, but like he was.
But I was
present,
only with him for like one summer. 2 months, and
Oh,
then
your
he
dad?
lived in a different state.
Oh, so he wasn't there.
No,
Gotcha.
he was not in the home. It was,
Okay.
I went there for 2 summers, and then I wasn't legally allowed to have contact with him until I was 18. So after that, it just was my mom.
Gotcha. Okay.
So no father figure, and
No
I can
father
imagine
Mm-hmm.
that that is because the people in those homes are pliable. I mean, it's a pretty easy front to put on and to manipulate somebody with. If you can present yourself a certain way for even a short amount of time, it's pretty easy to get them to be complacent enough and put their guard down enough to be able to do what you want.
What
It's
if you were put in charge of, like, I don't know, if you were just put in charge, what would you want to do to try and help, like, the situation? Like, do you think it's something that can be done on a state or governmental level, or is it more something that we have to more discuss among ourselves in our communities?
I think it has to be a community thing
Mm-hmm.
because there are going to be predators in any community that you're in. And
Right.
there it's going to take them literally being behind bars to stop them, and you can't watch everyone all the time. I think that they're going to do what they're going to do
Yeah.
regardless. I mean, it's like the same type of thing with restraining orders. You can have those in place and say you are not legally allowed to come in contact, but at the end it's just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's
People are
words.
going to do what they want to do.
Yep. So I think the best option in defense for it is to kind of educate people because, I was under the impression that I was 8 foot tall and bulletproof. And, that's not going to happen to me. Nobody thinks. Nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. And then it happens to them, and you're like, what? You don't think of it that way until you're in the situation. So I think the best option would be to implement it in schooling. Something that, because parents, they do their best, but they can't always be there all of the time. So I think if there is something that most children are going to go to, like schooling, preschool, well, not preschool, that's too young, middle school, high school, just have some form of education in there, some way to implement it in a kid friendly way that they're going to understand and not be like, whatever, but still understand it. I think that would be the most positive way because if you kind of train the people around the predators to be suspicious of them, you're going to start taking away their target pool and who they can pick from. Because at the end of the day, you still have to find somebody that is going to be vulnerable enough and gullible enough to be able to come to you when other people are like, you're weird. You're 50
Yeah.
years old. Why are you reaching out to a 17-year-old to begin with?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And if kids can spot that, because adults can generally spot that, I feel pretty well, but it's like kids
Yeah.
are the ones who, so yeah, if we have those conversations with them, it's like they're
Yeah.
gonna be able to spot it better. And I've had a pretty similar thought when the big, like, when I would have debates with people online about like the Second Amendment and gun violence, is that was kind of my solution in my head, is I think we should just be educating, like, the kids from a young age on
Yeah.
how to respect a weapon. Not have 6-year-olds be going out to the gun range, but maybe just get them familiarized with what a firearm is,
Yeah.
and then, like, progressively just have them respect it. And I think I think it just altogether needs to be a reform in our education system,
Yeah.
because I think that's another unanimous kind of opinion of the people, is that the education system is severely outdated.
Yeah. Well,
And
and that's the other thing is it's going to happen.
yeah.
You can't stop it, whether it's gun violence, whether it's, rape, domestic violence, there's always going to be someone going through it. So I think another big part of it is finding support systems for the victims and finding more resources because it's like if you do have a victim coming to you and you're overloaded I understand that you can be frustrated and burnt out, but that's still not the victim's fault. So the victim comes into the situation and is like, wow, they don't want me here, you know? And the staff are just kind of, we have so much going on. We have 8 of you coming into this. You still, I feel like the resources are just not enough to be able to successfully show women that there is, women, children, men, that there's a life outside of it. Because I think that's a big reason why people stay, is because they get familiar with the chaos, they get familiar with the trauma, and oh, I don't have anywhere better to go. You know, what are my choices, here or domestic violence shelter? You know, I think that an ideal goal would be to work so it's like, instead of oh, I guess I can either die here or go to a domestic violence shelter, it should be changed into, I want to go to that domestic violence shelter.
Yeah.
It should be like a good place that people think of and can, you know, associate in their mind, that it's not this like halfway house that's crazy.
An
And
actual sanctuary.
and it's like a safe place that you can go, you know. It's
I wonder, you said in there that you think we don't have the resources, and I'm kind of under the same sentiment, but do you think we don't have the resources to educate a like kind of period, or do you think that it's because less and less young people are being kind of less active in their communities?
I think that it goes, because I think that if you're going to work, if you're not volunteering, if you're going to work, I think an associate degree in psychology should be necessary. And I understand that that's going to strain it even more, but you have to be able to understand to a certain degree these people that are coming into your presence. And so some kind of schooling in it. It doesn't even have to be an associate's degree, just some form of education where they can understand warning signs. They can understand, even if these people aren't talking, they can still kind of imagine what it's going to be like. But I also think that the physical resources are lacking, because on this peninsula, you know, out of all of the people here, which isn't a lot compared to lower 48, but it's still a lot, we have one domestic violence shelter. One, and that's for women only. You know, that doesn't include men. That doesn't include, you know, men aren't even allowed in the Lee Shore Center. There's no male staff. And I understand that, but at the same time, there are just as many men going through these things as there are women. So the men are left with the options of going to the Freedom House, which is a halfway house for convicts and rehabilitating drug addicts. You know, it's not the setting that I think is appropriate for somebody coming fresh out of a domestic violence situation.
Which
So
that's crazy
Yeah.
to think about, because I remember when I lived down in Taos, and Taos is a small town. I forget
Yeah.
the population. I think it's something like 6,000. Like, it's small. But within I want to say like a 10-mile radius, there were like three,
Yeah.
like three domestic violence shelters for women.
Yeah. And
yeah.
within the one shelter here, there's only 10 employees, and you have to manage the women, and these aren't just like normal people coming in. It's not like you're going to a hotel.
Right.
Anyone that is going there is there for a reason, and it's normally never a good reason. People don't go there because they have their lives going great. You know, I just need a vacation from home. The kids are driving me crazy. It's like you're coming from a very bad situation.
Yeah.
So you're having people that are going to be fragile, aggressive, you know, upset, agitated, depressed. I mean, all of these things. So not only do you have to manage that, you have to manage the safety of the other people around them. You have to feed them, clothe them, be able to keep them safe. I mean, it runs the workers down, and there's just not enough bodies to go around. So I think that can lead to the kind of dismissive opinion and personality with people coming in. It's like, in their heads, it's like, we can't handle one more intake, but this person has no place to go. So I think it can kind of come out as like exasperation with the person. So I think if we got more resources from it, it wouldn't be as a significant issue, because I think a lot of to do with domestic violence, I mean, it's solved by resources
Yeah.
and support systems. I mean, you're just going to keep going back and back and back unless you have people that you can fall on. Like, I had no money. He had financial control over everything. I had no communication. I was isolated, no clothes, no personal belongings. He cut up my IDs. It's like I didn't have anything. So, coming from that, I think if there are more resources, it can kind of keep people away.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's I'm not even sure how much of a resource issue it is either, because I'm trying to think if we like, and this is actually something I want to do soon, is I want to attend uh, what are they called, like a community hall meeting,
Mm-hmm.
like essentially where like Soldatna or Kenai or whatever kind of like meets up as a
Yeah.
community. And like I think I want to attend one of those meetings and just observe who's there,
Yeah.
what the conversations are being had. But my what I imagine is I don't think there's going to be many people under 40
Yeah.
there who are attending those meetings. And so and also the another thing I'm kind of thinking is I think this is a nationwide issue we're
Oh, yeah.
facing, because of the internet, because we the conversations that are being had on the internet are surrounded so much about are, are primarily surrounding the federal government and the wars in Israel
Yeah.
and Ukraine and stuff. And I'm like, this is all stuff that we don't have control over,
Yeah.
but we have control over what we do in our communities. I mean, just was it today or yesterday? Um, the city of Portland voted to divest, essentially divest their money into into companies that were supporting the war in Israel, to
Yeah.
divest their money from Lockheed Martin and all these other big corporations. And so it's like, they didn't go to DC and say, hey, we want this to stop. They stopped it in their own communities.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we need to do as young people,
Yeah.
is
Well,
we need to get back into our like community halls, start having meetings, talk about what's going on. I mean, imagine like you were going through the same situation, but everyone in your age group, what were going to those meetings, and someone was all like, "Oh, there's this girl I know, and she's talking to a 40-year-old guy," or I forgot how old he was when
he
you
was
met him.
48
Yeah, 48. So,
and I
you
was
know,
17.
yeah. So like he's talking to this 17-year-old guy. I don't think it's right. Like we should like
Yeah.
maybe not even make a big issue, but there could be a little private section
Yeah.
like, hey, this is a conversation we have about the women in our communities and
It's,
what we think we should do. And so maybe, like I said, I don't even think it's a resource issue. Those meetings can be had for free.
yeah. But it's
And
also
so,
going to be not everyone shares that mentality as you do. I mean,
yeah,
you have to be in a specific mentality. I mean, people are going to shy away from DV.
yeah,
I mean, it makes people uncomfortable.
mm-hmm,
Nobody wants to hear about it. Nobody wants to see it. They're going to avoid it if they can. That's why
yeah,
I think the people that, if they witness a woman being slapped, that turn around, I don't think they're bad people. I don't think they're selfish. I think it makes them uncomfortable.
yeah,
Which is rightfully so. I mean, it's an uncomfortable thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like there are so many things going on in the world, and you're right that we can't control it. But
we still get distracted by it.
yep.
Yeah,
And the people in the DV situations, that is their world. That is the end of the world. If this person snaps, they're done.
yeah,
Their world gets taken apart and they can be taken out of the world. So even if it seems like it's not a pressing issue, it is, because there are so many people that go through it. And there are so many different forms of it too. Like, I went through pretty much a very extreme, like the most extreme of extremes that you can go through. But there are people all down the chain that go through it, whether it be mental, physical, emotional. And to me, it's all the same. Because what could be super severe for me could affect somebody completely different. It doesn't bother them at all, and vice versa. Like, it doesn't bother me, but it destroys somebody else. Things affect people differently. So somebody that is emotionally abusive to someone, that could be just as painful and just as damaging as physical abuse would. It's kind of all falls in my mind the same. People are going to hurt the same. They're going to feel the same. The victims are all going to kind of be in the same mentality, whether you were beaten or yelled at or broken down mentally or emotionally. It's all the same feeling of despair and hopelessness, and they'll take you apart as a human being. When I was with him, I didn't even remember who I was as a person, and that went beyond him just drugging me and keeping me complacent. That went into, I had no idea who I was, what my personality was. I had nothing. And all I could do, was just try and think of anything, distract myself. And I got to a point where I just became numb. Like, there was nothing. There was nothing that I felt. And then it just all went to the peak. And then when I got out of the situation, I still went back, because it was like I had grown so accustomed to the chaos, like I said. And it was, I'm never going to do this again. I'll never hurt you. It was a mistake. I was high. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have somebody to put a hand on my back and be like, he can't.
Don't go back.
Yeah. And that doesn't make sense that he doesn't remember any of it, because there was a lot that went into it. It wasn't just, I went into his home and it was an abusive situation. It was, I went into a home. It started to be abusive. I got everything taken from me, ID, phone, got hotshotted and moved to a separate location. So if you have all of those things in place, it's not just, oh, I was high and I didn't know what I was doing. It was like there was a plan obviously in place. And then from there became the trafficking and all of that. So it was like, it's nuts. And it happens more frequently than people realize. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. It's how did how did you like end up getting out of it? Was it an effort on your own? I mean, because
like the last time,
because you said you went back.
yes,
And so
I went back like the very last time I ever spoke to him, or like the first time I left.
the last time.
That came from me being able to distance myself in certain ways. And the big catalyst was the hospital, because it was a whole different group of people. Like, these were people that had never experienced something similar, and they were good people. I mean, my boss in the OR, when he found out about it, however he did, he approached me and said, if you ever have a black eye, I'll be the first to call the cops and put him in jail. So it became, as other people around me were like, that's not okay. What?
Yeah.
This is, and it wasn't, because most of the support systems I had were other victims. And that is a good, you can relate to other people, but they're still victims. So there's no really being able to help each other, because if you both are broken, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. Like, oh, you shouldn't go back. And then on the other side, it's like, but I want to go back, things like that. So being totally separate from people that kind of understand that or have been put in similar situations, and then being like, no, that's not okay. I'm going to call the cops. He can't be doing that. Security would walk me out to my car. And it came to the point in my mind where I was like, ugh, you disgust me. Because I didn't see him the same anymore. Once I got out of the situation, he just became more and more gross in my mind. Like, he didn't scare me anymore. And he was scared eventually of going back to jail, because it's a completely different world. You get your freedom taken. you don't have any control of what you do. I mean, nobody wants to be in jail. And once he went there, like the third time, he was like, that's when he started switching from, okay, I can do physical in this, to being like, okay, I'm just going to purely do emotional. And at that point, it was like, what worse are you going to do to me? You already pretty much did the worst of the worst, you know?
Yeah.
And so it changed in my mind of being like, you're gross and you're old and you're fat and you're sad and I don't want to be with you anymore. And I found ways, and the thing was is I did it by myself, and that's what keeps people in it for so long, is because they don't have people to help me. You know, I did people to help them. I didn't have anybody to help me. So that's Jordan. She came in. But if you get your head on your shoulders, you're gonna find people around you. I mean, and that's what I strive to be eventually. That's why I'm doing the volunteer work at the Lee Shore Center, is because I want to be able to give what I was given in that moment.
And that's, yeah. I mean, I think it's like kind of interesting how we find people who are going to, I don't know if this is like a lot of people's experience, but it's certainly been my experience, and it's been a lot of people's experience I've talked with, is we find people in our lives who are just better, and they better us because we're surrounded by them.
Yeah.
And
well, there's,
yeah,
I think everything happens for a reason. I mean, that has always been a good foundation that I have had. And even though to this day I'm still like, well, what was the reason? You know, because it's like God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And in the heat of it, I was like, pick somebody else. I don't want to do this anymore. You know, like in my head, it's always been like, what is God's purpose for putting a child into that? You know, and even if I can't understand it, I do believe, even when I'm angry about everything, it's like everything happens for a reason.
yeah,
And even when I'm emotional or irrational, I can still, you know, there's a purpose for everything. I mean, I attempted suicide like 4 times, and it should have worked. That was the thing, is it wasn't just like, oh, I'm so depressed, I'm going to take like a whole bottle of ibuprofen, you can't stop me, meh. It was like, oh, 2 bottles of alcohol, every prescription medication I had, like full bottles. I mean, anything, cutting my wrist with my bleeding disorder. Wake up 3 days later and be like, this hell? You know, it looks the same as where I was at. So it's like, everyone's always said you have a purpose, you're here for a reason. And then I'm like, what's my reason? Well, I don't know. You have to figure that out yourself.
Do you think it was some sort of divine, like, guidance or intervention, or
I don't know
anything
what
like
else
that?
it could have been.
Yeah.
Because it was like, that's how it was every single, I don't do things half-ass. Like, if I'm going in, I'm going in.
Yeah.
So it was like, there's no logical reason why this should have worked. The last time I attempted suicide, the family I was staying with was going to Anchorage. They were driving to Anchorage, and I was like, oh, this is a perfect time. Okay. They forgot something and had turned around, and they found me, and I was resuscitated. You know? It's just like, that doesn't make sense. Everything should have worked the way I wanted it to, but it never. I mean, and I've been in other life and death situations too. It hasn't just been suicide. I mean, when I got stuck in the water in the ocean because my boots got stuck, and the tide was coming in. It was the middle of winter. Like, I was up to my neck, and they had to jump from the bluff to go down and get me, and they had to drag me through the bluff to get me out and take me to the hospital. I had hypothermia and all sorts of, and they were like, if any one thing would have been different, you would have died.
Wow.
If the water would have came in stronger, if the wind would have been different, if you would have been in a slightly different position. Like, it was weird because I was right across from a church. That's what was there at the top of the bluff where I was at. Directly down above where I was at was a church.
Which church?
Anchor of Hope.
Anchor of Hope. They're the right ones.
So it's just like, and there's multiple things like that, but
Yeah.
being able, seeing that is one thing, but living it is another. And I think that that's a huge thing because when everyone was like, oh, you have a reason to be here, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody, after they just committed suicide, wants a nurse to be like, I'm glad you're still here. It's like, that's not what I want to hear. I don't want to still be here. So I think, I don't know. It's just, I think everyone has a purpose. I don't think it's just me that has a purpose. I mean, everyone and everything, like every animal, besides wasps. I hate wasps. But everything has a purpose. We're all here. We're all chilling. We're all doing our own thing. You know, we have some, even the assholes have a reason. Do I know that? No. And I don't want to know what their purpose is. I would assume it would be the devil. But at the same time, it's like, that's not for me.
Like the devil is
Putting them in place.
Putting them in place. Gotcha.
I can't imagine that God would let a man do that. And let him become that. I mean, that doesn't seem like a very godly thing to do.
my understanding on it is it's a strange topic, but like we have free will, and like I think God you know, I
Heard that
think
in the speaker.
yeah, I did too.
My apologies.
But
That sounded like a whale.
sounded like a door creaking to me.
I can't help it. My throat just does it.
Well, I've drank that Sunkiss and I've been burping. You don't hear me belching in
It's
the
in
microphone.
my throat. I can't control.
Pick up any of the thunder?
I just
Oh, is that what that was?
Oh yeah, it's
Holy
I thought it
cow.
was your family.
I
Like
didn't hear
it was scraping wood or something. Out
I didn't
there,
hear
like,
any thunder
no,
to
it is
begin with.
pouring down
I
rain
thought-
and
Dang.
like
I
crazy
thought-
thunder outside.
I thought it was some kind of construction because they had all that crane stuff.
Can you check if my prescription's there?
But
Call them?
I think the thing with free will is like it's unfortunate that people are the victims of it.
Yeah.
But I think that's God's way because free will ultimately is like really the best way we learn. And that's what I think is I think we're here to learn wisdoms that our spiritual beings cannot experience, that
Yeah.
our spiritual beings cannot possibly learn because we're in a perfected form.
Yeah.
And so it is unfortunate that we do have like victims
Yeah.
because of it, but yeah, I mean, I think that's what free will is.
Yeah. There's a cost to everything. I mean, that's the thing is I can't understand it, so I don't try to. Like that was a big reason why I didn't read the Bible. Like that's why I didn't go into religion. It was, for one, my mom used it as justification for her abuse. You know, this is God's way. You know, this is God's will. And it's like, you can't even, just because you're saying words from the Bible at me does not mean you are living and being
Yeah.
a Bible person. So it was like, I don't want to go into that. But I've always believed that there was something bigger out there. Like that was always my mentality is, I don't know if it's one person, two people, you know, whatever it is, but there's something bigger than us, you know? So
Yeah.
and I think that would be an appropriate mindset for everyone to have, but that's risky business because people don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah. It's a really, there's a lot of strange dynamics with it. I mean, because God is the perfect like order of
Yeah.
things, but at the same time, he gives us free will. And I don't know if this is the natural man within us or if this is something that God put within us, but men tend to have a like rebellious
Yeah.
spirit about them, and it's like we want to be free, but I don't know. It's a strange it's a lot of strange dynamics there
Yeah.
that I love to explore.
But it's just like when people are like think that Earth is the only thing. It's to me that blows my mind.
Like the only like
The only living, like we are the only
the
living
only living
people.
planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what do you mean? What do you mean we're the universe is so
Expansive.
huge.
Yes.
There are so many planets that NASA hasn't seen.
Yeah.
There are so many things, and okay, the moon landing was fake, so be it. But there are planets. There are planets out there, right?
Yeah.
So how can you guarantee me that there is not sentient life on all of them?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. No.
You cannot. It's just like somebody could say, though, with the God thing, how do you know? Have you seen him? Because anyone that has seen him is dead.
Yeah. That's the what is that? That's the frustrating part with the quote unquote like science versus religion debate, which I think is stupid because science to me is the exploration of God's creation. But the thing is, you cannot possibly prove, nor can you possibly disprove the existence of God, because the belief and existence is in God is through faith. And faith currently right now is not a measurable thing.
What is that?
That is a tool that Brenner is using.
Tell him to quit that.
I don't know what kind of tool that is, though.
Maybe it's his vibrator.
I don't think he's that kind of guy. Who knows, though? Even if he's into it, good
who
for
am I
him.
to judge?
Yeah, good for him.
Who am I to judge?
Exactly.
I think it's healthy to have a mix between spirituality and science.
Yes.
I think that it is unhealthy when people are polar on the end of that spectrum. Like, I think a good way to be conducive with the people around you is to be open. I mean, you can have your own beliefs. Like, if you think that the earth is flat and that we're the only things in the whole universe, you can believe that. I can't stop you. But at the same time, it's like, I don't have to believe that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
that's what I love about us as a people.
That's what I don't love is us as people.
You don't like that we disagree and have our own ideas?
I don't like when it's taken to the extreme. That's why, like, I understand that America is America. We have the right to protest, freedom of speech, all of that good schnoz.
Right.
But I don't want to see is children holding up abortion signs.
Yeah.
On a side. That's the part that bothers me, because I don't mind other people who have different opinions than me. Even if I'm like, okay, and adamantly in my whole being disagree. You are allowed to do that, but that doesn't give you the right to shove it down somebody else's throat.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing with feminism too. Like, it's not just the photos saying that you're a baby killer that bother me. I mean, throwing blood on people and, my body, my choice. It's so extreme. And I feel like it would be more helpful if my headphones went out.
You're okay.
My headphones went out. What was that?
Are they still out?
No.
Okay.
One went out.
Yeah, it's a sensitive jack.
You don't say.
He's a bit shy.
Stop. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I think more things would get done if people were respectful about things.
Yes.
Because nobody wants to see baby killer signs and nobody wants to see uterus, like blood and shit.
Yeah.
There is a middle ground that can accomplish way more. Because, if we have different opinions on each other, that's one thing. But to try and force you to see my perspective, that's only going to cause more resistance. It's like playing tug of war. Instead of being give and take, it's just constant.
Exactly.
Pulling.
That's what I like. I mean, it's no secret. I'm religious myself, but
Really?
But that's what I hate. I hate about some religious sects is they are that's their approach is you're gonna burn in hell and you
Yeah.
need to repent for it.
Yeah.
I'm like that's a terrible approach. That is not
That
the
makes
way.
me want to do it less.
That makes me want to do it less.
It's
I want to be all like, I'm gonna burn in hell. I want to pierce my nose right
Yeah.
now and dye my hair and go,
It's-
ah,
yeah,
you know,
you're
like
gonna burn in hell. You coming with me? I mean,
Yeah.
like, okay, listen. I mean, no offense to your culture and your religion as Mormons,
yes,
but something that has always bothered me is when the Mormons come up to my fucking door and start knocking, saying they're spreading the word of God, and I'm like, why are you here? Well, do you have we just want a second of your time. No.
yeah,
But we want a second of your time. No.
Yeah.
But if we could just have 1 second, there's a sign that says no trespassing right there. And if my body language is telling you, go away, why are you still here?
yes,
And Alicia explained it to me, oh, well, it's, to spread the word of God is a good thing. But in my head, it's like, why are you at my home? It's one thing if I were going out into the community and asking about it, right? It's not gonna come to my bubble. There's one time.
I think you would like Russia.
Well-
The rule in Russia, because they passed a law that says, I don't know if it's specific to LDS or if it's a blanket law for all religions, but the LDS protocol is you cannot go up to people and ask them to say to spread the religion.
They
You
have to come to you.
They have to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm interested in what you're saying."
That's a good mentality to
And-
have.
And so,
I don't understand why that can't be there to begin with. Like, I understand spreading the word of God, which
Right.
that's a lie. I don't understand it because in my head, it's like, there's a better way to do this. Because not only does it make me angry, but there's some freaky motherfuckers out there. So it puts them in danger, them going to houses and knocking.
Yeah.
But it's like,
If you had the complete truth of the universe, or this is it's revealed to you definitively through a vision, it's not drugs messing with your brain or anything, in your mind and body and soul that this is the truth, would you want to go out and spread it to people, or would you just want to kind of keep that for close family members, or how would you,
I would keep it to myself unless I was told
unless you were told
to spread it. And then I would still,
cautiously?
yes, and there are better I think that is a good mentality to have. Let them come to you. Be in a public space. You can still be out and about looking for people if they're interested, but I think that it crosses a line coming into somebody's space because you have no idea what's on the other side of the door when you knock. You have no idea because they could be crazies. They could be crazy. They could be Satanists. They could be Jewish. They could be so many things. And it's I don't know if that's just because I'm antisocial that it's offensive to me to regard them being able to do that. But to me, it's it's the same thing as solicitation. It's like people, and I know that's offensive and it sounds offensive. I'm not saying you're a solicitor.
No, I don't take any
But
offense.
it's like going to the door asking to buy wrapping paper. It's the same thing. You are still approaching people. And I think for me personally, I just didn't enjoy it. And it was there was one time that I sent them over to a really crazy house. And I told them that he was crazy and that he needed a God. And they ran right over there and watched them get yelled at just because it was why are you here? Why are you in my space? If I didn't call you and say, hey, I want to learn about Latter-day Saints. I want to become a Mormon. I want to do all that schnoz, right? If I didn't
Right.
say that, why are you coming to me?
I think it's I don't know if it's an older way of thinking or what, but it's definitely that we have the truth and we have to spread it across the earth. And that's their mentality on it. I'm kind of I'm kind of in the middle between the two takes.
Do you want me to stay on hold?
Hold on, pause.
Okay, pause. Yep. Oh, hold on here.
I'm not ready.
I'm just testing. I need you by my side.
All right. Is it going? Okay, so we took a short pause break. But last time we were talking, I was talking about how I'm kind of in the middle ground between missionaries knocking on your door. And I'm like, I don't think it should be so aggressive and they come by, every day or every other day or whatever. But I also think that it's kind of okay to like go up and ask people.
I disagree.
Not even once. Not even if you have the whole truth, nothing, or you feel like you have the whole truth and nothing but the truth and you want everyone to know.
No. Unless they ask me for their advice, I am not going to give unwanted opinions.
Yeah, we took like a day break, so there's not a lot, but we had a long conversation before, and that was one of the topics was unwanted opinions. So, but it was, I don't know, I liked it. Not the conversation, but the ambiance of it, I guess. It's fun. Anyways. So, oh, hold on. There's probably going to be a quick change in tone for the listeners, but I did have, let me see, I had a podcast, or not podcast ideas, but podcast topic ideas. Let me see if I have them here. Unless if you have something on your mind.
I never do.
You never do?
No.
You know what I like about you, Ellie, is your flowers. I saw your flower arrangements. I thought it was really good. I was all like, dude, I would totally buy a bouquet off you.
I'm actually trying to start my own business with that.
Yeah. How do you get your flowers?
The store. But if I get the business up and running, I'm hoping to do wholesale.
Find a distributor
Yeah.
for you. That'd be cool. Yeah. When you said you went to school for it, right?
Yeah,
Nice.
I did.
What made you want to get into it?
It was kind of just a sub-sector of horticulture. So that got implied in the first round of schooling, and then I took it further, and then I also worked in a flower shop after that. So it was just kind of the all-encompassing spectrum of it.
Nice.
You know?
Getting into different hobbies, and yeah, I don't know. I have a ton of hobbies that I have to just not get into because I don't have the time to do it.
I never finish my hobbies.
Mm.
I start 5 new things and then want to continue doing those 5 things and then get burnt out and never do them again.
Is that what's that called? It's following the dopamine.
Dopamine chaser?
Yeah, dopamine chaser.
I guess. It's just more so my mind is obsessive about things. So it's like if I find one thing that is like, oh, I'm actually decent at this, it's like I have to do it obsessively. Or it's not right. And it doesn't, in my head, it changes from a hobby at that point. Then it's like something else. It's not enjoyable anymore because it's like I freak out if I don't do it every single day.
You start getting obsessive over
Yeah.
it. Yeah. My thing is I'll see a 10-minute video of a guy wood burning this really intricate design, and I look at it and I'm like, I can do that. I'm like, I know I can do that. And so I'll buy a bunch of wood burning stuff. I'll buy a piece of plywood, start wood burning, getting into it, and I can do it. But then yeah, I also get burnt out about a month later.
Yeah.
And now I have just a bunch of random wood burning tools.
I
in
do
my
the same
closet.
thing.
Yeah.
Spend a shit ton of money that doesn't need to be spent on it, being like, oh, this will help me. This will help me cope. Oh, and then it just sits after a month, and it's just staring at me like,
Yeah.
why did you buy me? Why am I here? What is my existence?
It's always great when you find something that sticks
Yeah,
for a while, and
I haven't found that.
you haven't found it yet. Yeah, I found welding and drawing.
Yeah.
Drawing has stuck with me my whole life, and I'm really happy it has. It's actually really therapeutic for me,
Yeah.
and so
Well, I think it would also go into the therapeutic aspect of it, being able to finish something. You are in complete control of what you're doing, how it turns
Yes.
out. I mean, nothing is out of your control.
yeah,
So it's a good outlet, especially if you haven't had control previously in your life. It's like, what is this page going to do to me? You know, nobody can stop me from doing whatever I want on this page.
exactly.
And you can finish it. It's something you can complete the story from beginning to end. It has whatever ending you want it to have.
Yeah, you just, I don't know. It is the control of it,
Yeah.
and that's I don't know. I love that. Yeah. A little bit random, but my favorite flower is a sunflower. Sunflowers, I don't know what it is. I mean, you know this, but my aesthetic is kind of black. I just love black on black on black. I just love it. But sunflowers, there's something about that yellow and how big they are. It's just
Yeah.
lights up my day. I love it.
What's a go-to? It's like a universal thing for happiness. My
Yeah.
favorite is, I really like coleus.
Coleus?
Yeah.
What's that? Let me look it up here. Let's
It's
see.
it's a beautiful plant, and there's so many variations of it. And then I also like heliotrope.
A heliotrope. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Those are cool because when they're blooming, they'll turn in the direction of whichever way the sun is. And sunflowers do that as well. But the name heliotrope is derived from the Greek meaning of to turn towards the sun. And they smell really nice.
Oh, and it's the purple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they make all sorts. I mean, I saw one that was blue and was like, what the hell?
Dude, yeah, those are beautiful.
Yeah. I don't like plants that are sensitive. All of my plants, they grind on the curb. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how they survive, and they keep surviving because I'm like, if I haven't watered them in a while and I'm drinking like a Gatorade, I'll put the backwash in there.
That's the other great thing with sunflowers is like, I mean, you have to water them a ton. I think you have to water them every day, and it's like a lot. But they're not like
Fickle.
they're not delicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're beginner friendly for sure. I mean, that's, I think, one of the big mistakes that people do when they try to get into gardening is they'll pick these plants without doing research on them and understanding, what their level of care is. So a lot of their plants end up dying. And then they're like, this is, I just don't have a green thumb. And it's just, in my head, it's like, no, you do. You just need to find something that is also conducive with your type of green thumb. Plants just like me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
My elephant ear, I mean, that thing's nuts. It's huge. It's growing babies all the time,
I saw it. It's great.
dying constantly. And I do the same thing. Put some sparkling water in there when I'm done with it. Soda, Gatorade, ice.
Are you trying to kill it?
It's not that I'm trying to kill it. It's more so that I'm forgetful and I just really don't give a shit about it that much.
Oh, dang. Is it sad looking, or do you think it likes the
I think that it's learned to adapt. I think, because I do water them. I don't purely just give them Gatorade and soda, but I do water them as well. But it's just,
it's like the Eurythmics song. Some of them want to some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to be abused.
Yeah.
That's your plant. It likes to be abused.
yeah. Well, it's in my head. I have so many things going on all the time in my mind that it's like I enjoy plants and I enjoy having them close to me, but it's like I can't depend on them and I can't put my thought processes on them, because that's what plants do. They die.
Yeah.
They die all the time. And if I were to invest emotions into it, I'd just end up getting my feelings hurt, because I've found in my journey of it that the harder I try to keep a plant alive, the worse it is. And it just dies quicker.
Yeah.
Like most things.
Most things do die,
Everything dies.
except for jellyfish and
Jellyfish die.
there's the immortal jellyfish. It just stays alive forever.
Is it immortal, or have we just not
Found
outlived
in
its
death.
lifespan yet? Because, I mean, there's ancient things that just have an incredibly long lifespan.
Yeah.
So how would we know if it's going to die?
Like
if
crocodiles too.
Yeah.
If you don't kill a crocodile will just keep going and going and going for like
Yeah.
hundreds of
Yeah.
years.
Well, isn't it the same thing with tortoises?
I don't know.
Like, some of the species of them are like super.
I do know a few tortoise like do live a long time. Like they could live up to 200 years plus.
Yeah. Well, it's like, why would you get, in my head, why would you get an animal that's going to outlive you?
To give to your kids.
You see, but that doesn't
also-
always go well, because some of
And
the kids
also their
don't want
pretty
it.
shells.
Same
They have
with
pretty-
land.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
It's the same with anything generational. You could have a piece of land that you intend to give to your kids.
Yep.
Kids end up selling it.
Yeah. Land.
I also think pets are just the whole theory behind them, and sometimes I wish that it wouldn't have been normalized to keep things as pets, because a lot of people get them for emotional support, and in my head it's like, why would you get something with such a short lifespan for emotional support? Because eventually that thing is going to die.
You get attached to it and then it bites the dust.
Yeah.
That's rough.
I feel like that's not
But they're one of the greatest therapy methods.
is animals.
Yes.
Yeah, until the animal's old and dying.
They've helped many veterans PTSD,
Well, I'm not
severe PTSD.
I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying.
Hey Jordan, could you please close the door? I think I could hear the dryer in my headphones. Maybe
I can't too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Make the slave do it.
Mexicans are not slaves. They're cheap labor.
Not anymore.
I tell my sisters that too. They always tried doing the black jokes with me, and I'm like, I'm not black. I'm like, I'm Hispanic. You got to be creative with it. And then the other day they called me.
Not Hispanic?
No, they're white. My sisters are whitey McWhites. And,
Mine is too.
but they're, yeah, I could tell. I'm kidding.
Well, you say
Because
that.
I'm brown and my sisters are white, so I probably should not assume that, you know?
Well, my sister's darker skin tone than I am, but she is very clearly white, and she very clearly wants to be a different race.
She wants to be a different race?
Oh yeah.
Is
It's
she
what
like
the
one of
term would be
those-
called, a wigger.
Yeah, is she one of those white girls who act black? I worked with one of those.
All the time. When I had dreadlock extensions, because my depression was really bad, and for me, they weren't an aesthetic. They were there because it would help me manage. Because if you don't manage your hair, especially if you have mental shit,
Yeah.
it mats and you're going to have to cut it all off. So it was a good option for me. She goes, you can't have dreads. You know, you're white. And I was like, in my head, I was like, you said the N-word like 80 times yesterday. How are you going to come at me in your head and think that it's the same thing? It's a very hypocritical viewpoint that she has.
My brother, he sort of adopts a lot of like the way people act and like the culture that
Yeah.
he's around. So when he moved to Georgia, he's kind of started like acting black and like getting offended at the black jokes. I'm like, you and I would tell the same black jokes when we were kids. Like, calm down.
It's a survival thing.
And then yeah,
It's-
that checks out.
It's being like a chameleon, being able to blend in and not draw attention to yourself.
Yeah, I do the similar thing with household, not really culture, but household
Yeah.
stuff. So like when I like with Brenner, I kind of started mimicking a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of like kind of how he talks and
Yeah.
stuff. And I do that
I
like
think
a lot, I've noticed.
part of that is natural too, especially when you're living in such close quarters with somebody all the time,
Yeah.
like with roommates or family members if you're living with them. I think it's a natural thing to kind of your mind to acclimate to them and to start repeating things that normally on its own it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Or we're just crazy. Both of us. We're both mentally ill.
Well, I think we live on Earth. That's what it is, right? Like Earth is a crazy place. And we don't.
But
I
some
don't know.
people are less crazy than other people are.
But what is less crazy? Because, like, Jordan has a good head on her shoulders,
That's what I mean.
but
I think
sure.
craziness is measured by rationality. I mean, because you could be very calm, level headed, but still have the emotions in the moment that change you to be irrational. So I think that a good measurement of it should be rationality, especially under distress. That's a good
Yeah.
way to tell things.
Yeah, it's like we all have our own like struggles and goals in
Yeah.
our heads. And I'm like, I don't know. For the longest time, I felt like completely stupid in my head
Yeah.
because of like, I think just like the bad work environments I was in. And so like, I was kind of made to feel stupid.
Yeah.
And but I have these positive people around me and they're like, you're so smart and creative and stuff. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is kind of environmental.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
there's situational depression. I mean, that means something. If you can get depression without a chemical imbalance, I mean, that kind of in my head shows that there is a huge impact on your environment and what's around you and how it can deteriorate you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, support systems are the best way.
oh yeah. Well, that's how you're going to keep yourself on the right track. I mean, especially if you have a history of going off of that track, having somebody there to be able to remind you that you're worth more than going off the deep end and becoming, the things that your mind is comfortable becoming. I think that's good for everyone to have. And I think a lot of the cases when people are in jail for mental illness or locked up in institutions, it's because they didn't have that person to kind of be like, okay, not tell them what to do, but to suggest it and be there and show that they're going to be there. Because in my head, there's a difference from saying, I'll be there for you, I'll always be here, and actually always being there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say that without actually being able to be around when somebody goes into a different mental state.
Yeah. No, and I'm a huge believer that actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Oh,
My headphones.
did we? Okay. Yeah, the headphone jack is a little touchy. It's I don't know. My mind is stuck on the turtle thing right now. There was I hate to like bring it back to this, but there was a turtle, or a tortoise in Phoenix. This guy owned like quite a bit of tortoises, and this truck came in and was trying to like rob this guy's tortoises because they actually sell for
Yeah.
quite a bit. I think they sell for like a few $1,000s for the big ones.
Yeah.
Guess what? Tortoises are heavy. So it's like these two guys are struggling to pick up this big thing and they're like, oh, like can't figure it out. And so they like gave up because they saw the lights turn on and I guess the owner came out to confront them.
Yeah.
And so they freaked out, got back in their truck and backed out, and they ran over the tortoise and like cracked its shell. And people in Phoenix, when they saw that footage, were incredibly upset
Yeah.
because it was the guy's like front porch footage. And
I think I saw that as well.
Yeah, I saw it. Like, I was living in Phoenix at the time, and I was like people were posting it on Reddit, trying to figure out what they could from
The little details I
the
saw.
little details, because the truck didn't have a front license plate, and then when it did eventually turn around, it was too far away and blurry in the shot. But they were figuring out like the exact like truck model and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And so like I don't know if they ever caught the guys. I'm hoping they did, but man, that was really unfortunate to see, because
Turtle thieves.
turtle thieves. Yeah.
I don't know why people fuck with turtles and tortoises, because in my mind, I understand that they're like more gentle,
And cute.
but all I can think is if they weren't and they chose violence. Do you know how bad that shit would hurt?
If tort if tortoises decided, like, you know what, one day it's like, you know what, we're just gonna go fast. You see this big old tortoise like running, like, oh my gosh, that'd be scary. That would be scary. They're dinosaurs.
They are.
They are dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That's like the thing. We're so fascinated by these like dinosaur movies, which, I mean, Jurassic Park's great, but I mean, we have real life dinosaurs
Yeah.
today. Tortoises, crocodiles, that's a dinosaur.
What's that one bird? There's also a bird that was
a big
around.
bird.
It's a weird bird. It has a huge beak and it has weird eyes.
Toucan? No.
No. No, what is it? Hold on.
The creepy looking one.
The one that makes a weird call. It's huge. It's a huge
Oh,
bird though.
is it that pelican? Yeah, the shoehorn pelican.
No, it
Or
looks
shoebill?
similar to the shoebill, but it's
okay.
not.
Okay, that thing terrifies me. The shoebill
Oh yeah.
pelican. That thing's terrifying. It has the like the machine gun.
Yeah.
I'm like, jeez.
Animals are nuts.
Yeah.
All of them are, and it is so easy to just assume that we are the dominant species. So we're not automatically, unless they're presenting signs of aggression immediately, we're not going to assume that they are. But
I think it's
We become dominant because of our ability to advance.
yeah,
it's our it's there's something that goes on inside our head that separates us
but
from
even
the rest
with
of the human
even
animal
with
kingdom.
the advancements, it's still.
Yeah.
I mean, these animals could easily kill you.
Oh,
Most
yeah.
animals can.
Yeah.
That's why traditionally, in a lot of traditional culture, a lot of it was based around respecting the environment and respecting the animals.
Respecting
because
animals.
They were real threats. So when you are come into a peaceful, quote unquote, peaceful existence where we've advanced so much that most people don't have to deal with wilderness and animals and even natural disasters as much, it creates this idea that, oh, we've advanced over you, we don't need to be afraid of you, especially with media having all of these encounters of it not being bad, or like Disney Bambi, and there was a video of that deer crushing a child's head in.
Jeez.
Yeah.
A deer crushing a child's head in. That's nuts.
Well, the mom had taken the child, because it was like a national park or something.
Oh.
And so she had taken the child up to the deer and was like, look, docile, prey animal. It's cool. I can set my baby next to it. The deer lifted its hoof up
And
crushed
smashed the
skull in.
kid's head in. Dang.
So that's still a wild animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all animals are wild animals. I mean, they can be trained, but even some of them can't. Like when I see dog attacking videos, it's like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh yeah, dogs
That's
are
nuts.
so like dogs are loyal to their owners because the owners feed them. But
It doesn't take
those
much for them
wild
to
dogs.
turn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, stray dogs are a perfect example. They instantly fall into pack mentalities
Yeah.
and become wild and undomesticated.
Well, I had never seen a video of a dog attacking another dog, like an actual.
Like an actual dog fight.
Yeah, I had never seen that until I think it was last year I saw the video. And there were like 3 German shepherds that were running up and they jumped somebody's fence, and the person had like a small white dog and they killed it. It was all in the footage, and that was the first time ever seeing it. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh God, I don't ever want to see
The-
this
I mean,
again.
can you imagine people set up gambling rings,
Yeah.
have dog fights?
Yeah.
Which is
Dog-
deplorable.
They try to get
Dog
them
fights
as
are very
aggressive as they can.
And if you think
profitable.
about it,
Yeah.
is like, but if you think about it from the animal perspective, like those dogs, if they do get out of that situation, they are going to have to be constantly monitored and passed around because most people aren't going to be able to handle a dog with trauma.
I just wish we eventually get to domesticated bears. I like, if not friend, then why friend shape? Because dude, bears are so adorable, but
Yeah, until they're
they
chasing you.
but they are like killers.
I don't know.
Polar bears are the top of the food chain.
Well, they're the only bear that hunts humans.
Yeah.
They will go out of their way to hunt humans.
I
Most
like the independence of bears.
most of the other bears, like especially the ones in Alaska, black bear, grizzly, and then the polar bear. I mean, the grizzlies are more aggressive, but that mainly still is if you're coming into their space.
Yeah.
Like they're not just walking through the city being like, "Okay, you offended me." You know, and black bears normally they're
They're not territorial.
or really aggressive. I mean, it
There's videos of people playing with black bears.
yeah, like they just are kind of food driven.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason they come into cities and shit is to get into dumpsters and find food that way.
Yep.
But polar bears are nuts. I mean, they will go after a human.
Yeah.
They will hunt a human.
Yes.
Everyone else is just like, "Oh, I don't like you. Don't get in my space, but we're fine."
Yeah.
You know. And then I had a fear. I had a phobia of bears, and so I looked up everything I could on them.
Yeah.
But the bear that I would least oh, hold on, let me think about how to say that. The bear that I would want to kill me the least would be a brown bear, a grizzly, because they have dull claws, but they still have that power. Black bears' claws are sharp because they climb trees and shit, but grizzlies are dull.
Yeah.
So when they're tearing at you, it's not like the sharp.
And they eat you from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Have you heard? I mean, so you've done research. Have you heard about the Bear Man documentary?
No.
This guy, he was from California. This guy wanted to live with bears so much. He wanted to live with them. He came up to Alaska in the Yukon area.
That was a big story.
And he made this entire documentary of him being with the bears. He's all like, I just want to protect the bears. I'm the only one, and all this stuff. When I first heard this, I thought this guy was some sort of bear expert.
Yeah.
Like he studied it, like maybe went to school for. Nope, just a dude who liked bears. So he came up and all this, and at the end of the documentary, he ends up getting eaten.
Yeah.
Mauled and eaten by bears, and his girlfriend is with him. In the audio goes on for a long time. I think 40 minutes.
It's horrific.
And I was listening to the audio, and I'm like I'm saying like 20 to 30 minutes in, like like he's still alive.
Yeah.
Being and like screaming and
Yeah.
and you can hear him trying to play dead.
And there's nothing you can do at that point.
Yeah, you're completely at the mercy of that animal, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it was like really sad. But
When my mom
kind of-
worked at Providence, she worked in the ED, and I would go there and like sit in her little area and wait for her to get off work. And there was a hiker that got attacked by a grizzly, and he came in,
Jeez.
and his like stomach was like disemboweled.
Yeah.
And they were trying to rush him in. They came in. I don't think they came by ambulance. I think they came in the front door, which is wild.
Were like the intestines out and everything?
Yeah.
Whoa.
There was like strips of skin hanging off of him.
Oh my gosh.
It was nuts. And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why you would want to be around that. Because to me, I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I have the instinct to not be around animals like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
There was this story recently that these teenagers, I don't know, I'd say teenagers, young adults. It was like 3 boys. They went up into the mountains hiking, came across a bear. The bear started attacking one of them, And so the guy was trying to fight him off, and then the two other boys were, or the one friend went back to fight the bear, to like, hey, fight me, man, like to get him off his friend. And so the bear got on him, and then the friend who was being attacked got up and started attacking the bear again, and they fought off the bear. But dude, watching the interview with those boys, they looked fucked up.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
like black eye, like cut, like gash across their face and arms. I'm like, God.
Yeah. Well, I've always told people, I would not hesitate to shoot you in the leg.
Yeah.
To let the bear eat you. It's just I don't care how much I love you. Maybe I think it would be different if it was like my child.
Yeah. Right.
Anybody else, though, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I will wish you goodbye and it will break my heart. But at the same time, I don't want to experience that.
Gotta look out for number one.
Right. That's me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might save Jordan.
Oh.
Probably not. Depends on what the conversation was previously.
Well, I would be trying to get you to go.
I know. I don't. It's like those. What are the cats' names? It's like a big cat.
Cougar, bobcat.
Why'd you first go to Cougar?
Because cougars, I don't know. That's just what popped in my head first. That's what I kind of lived
You
around.
like cougars?
Older women? You know what? Yeah, I actually do. There were two women, I'm not going to name them, but there were two women I've worked with previously, not at the same place. But I mean, they took care of themselves. They were older, but I'm like, dang, you single, I'm single. What do you say we get some lunch and like, and then
I mean, I go
get
with.
some lunch, take you to your place, and I'll eat some dinner. Like, I'm down.
You talking about them for dinner?
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's me free balling it.
I don't know if we want to bring this up in front.
I like older people too.
Yeah.
I can't stomach being with someone younger than me because it's like,
Well, you're also 23.
but I'm like 40 in my mentality. I'm at least like 35 with the way I think.
I'd say older.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
So it's just most of the people in this generation make me want to kill myself and put my head through a window. Like the shit that they say, it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I
I
don't-
was extremely eager to get out of high school.
Who?
Me.
Oh, yeah.
I was, yeah.
I didn't even go to like a regular high school. I went to like a small, what are they called?
Charters?
Cooperative. Padilla.
Yours was cooperative. Mine was called a. Oh God, I can't remember the name.
Academy?
Process.
Well-
It was called River City Academy.
Yeah.
But they called it a specific type of school.
My graduating class had like 15 people in it.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I went to the school before it was like an actual school, so it was in a church basement.
Mine was less than 15.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That was my when I was in 8th grade, we like we had this one girl who would have a video conference with the class. And her school, this was it in Cooper Landing? Or what's that really small town? It's Cooper Landing, right?
The
like
windy part?
It's like the town that's like a mile long.
Which way? Going towards Anchorage or going towards
Anchor
Homer?
Point is
Going
about-
towards Anchorage.
I was gonna say Anchor Point's like a mile long, but that's going towards Homer.
It's not Anchor Point.
I don't think Cooper Landing has a school. I think that you were probably thinking of Sterling.
It's a small. I'm talking like the entire school, like K through 12, is like 25 people. Like it's a small school, and like, but yeah, that's what she'd have a little video conference with us, and like she was the only person in her grade.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, small schools are crazy. But you know what the benefit was for them is they got to go on awesome field trips because
Yeah.
of the funding that they got.
Yeah.
So yeah, they went like skiing and stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's pretty cool.
Well, Padiah was good for me because I didn't really fit in with high school people, but it also came to bite me in the ass as well because they kind of were a little less diligent than they should have been, especially on certain subjects like mathematics. I didn't take one math class through all of my high school years.
Wow.
Not one. But I was also working a full-time job at the same time, so they were kind of a little more lenient towards it. And at the end of it, they were like, we're just going to give you applied mathematics credit to get you to graduate because you work with a cashier, a cash register. And let me tell you what, it felt really good in the moment, but came back to bite me in the ass later on because now I'm thinking about college and going, if I want to go into a field, normally you need a basic understanding of math, and I just do not have that.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't carry myself unless, and I'm going to have to start from the beginning and just work my way up.
Khan Academy is an incredible website.
I do better in in-person learning.
In person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely keeps you on track better. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I do best with multiple forms. Like I'm visual, auditory. I mean, for me, the ideal learning condition would be multiple aspects because it doesn't always click in my head the first time.
I know how to learn if it's something I want to learn about.
Yeah.
If it's mathematics, I know how to learn it. But man, like when I was brushing up on my math for college, like it was torture. I was
Yeah.
sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I was getting it. I know how to, find the average rate of find the average rate of change in polynomials. It's completely useless, but I'm like, I know how to do it now.
Well, I didn't even have
It's
algebra.
torture.
Like I didn't.
Oh.
The most I got was like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and sum division. That was it. So it's not like even the most basic class that they offer in college was still way above my comprehension level. So I would literally have to start at like a middle school level and go up from there.
It's doable. They have classes. But the best bet would probably be to get like a tutor for it. I think algebra is the funnest math.
I have to go pee.
This is the most fun. Okay, we could pause it. Let's see.
All right, so that's all of our podcasts with me on it.
You want to add anything before you go?
No. Goodbye.
All right.